In a well-known restaurant in a Danish town, an energetic duo, not so young anymore, are having their meal. However, the atmosphere feels a bit tense and uncomfortable. The man, Dennis, who's 38 years old, is sharing about his life as a bodybuilder to his blonde companion. He admits that his passion doesn't pay well, and he has to rely on his security guard job to make ends meet. His story, however, does not fascinate the woman, and they soon part ways. Dennis doesn't escort her out. Instead, he heads straight home, back at his place. Despite trying to remain unnoticed, Dennis is greeted by a lady who always seems to take an interest in his affairs. His elderly mother, Ingrid. Ingrid, clearly upset with his late arrival and her unsuccessful attempts to reach him, confronts Dennis. Dennis, trying to avoid any trouble, lies and says he spent his evening at a cinema with a friend. This doesn't sit well with Ingrid. She chases after Dennis, asking for a sincere apology. Feeling the weight of guilt, Dennis apologizes but retreats to his room, feeling melancholy due to his mother's constant supervision. The next day starts with Dennis heading for a shower, but this doesn't stop Ingrid from stepping into the bathroom to use it. They share breakfast together, and at the table, Ingrid ensures her son notices her vibrant dress and compliments her. After breakfast, they head off to the restaurant to meet with Bent, a relative, and his new wife from Thailand. As they leave, Dennis repeatedly checks the door to put his mother at ease. Bent introduces his new wife to everyone. Even though she doesn't understand the language, she smiles in response to his promises of happiness. The gathering is friendly and warm, except for Ingrid's frequent suspicious glances at her son as he mingles with the other men. Upon returning home, the closely knit Petersons gather around the bathroom sink for their nightly routine of brushing their teeth and discussing the day. Ingrid doesn't hide her disbelief about the younger couple's chance of happiness, and she deems Bent's Thai wife an unsuitable match for him. The following day, Dennis hits the gym. Despite the physical exertion, his feelings of solitude cling on to him. After his workout, he visits Bent, lending a hand in clearing out old bushes from the garden while gathering insights about Bent's relationship with his young Thai wife. Bent, willing to guide Dennis, hands over guidebooks about Pattaya. This sparks Dennis's interest, and he spends the entire night researching Thailand on the internet, planning his trip, and picking out the perfect hotel. Curious to hear the rest of the story? Please subscribe, and now I'll tell what happened next. When he visits the gym next, Dennis approaches a girl he knows and informs her he's canceling their upcoming date, confessing she's not his type. She seems unfazed, but this boosts Dennis's confidence and he engages in a high-spirited workout, smiling as he admires his muscles in the mirror. Later at dinner, Dennis announces to his mother, Ingrid, that he's headed to Germany for a bodybuilding competition. The news infuriates Ingrid, who storms off from the dinner table, accusing him of neglecting his duties at home. To make up for this, Dennis spends the entire next day trying to make things right, preparing breakfast for Ingrid and frequently checking up on her. But Ingrid, still upset, never steps out of her room, refusing to forgive her son for his defiance. With his departure day upon him, Dennis begins to pack. Even on the day he's leaving, Ingrid doesn't leave her bed to bid him farewell, hoping he would change his plans. She tries to manipulate Dennis into staying, but he remains firm on his decision. He heads to the airport and boards his flight to Thailand. From the taxi window, he gazes at the new and unfamiliar landscapes and the lively streets of Pattaya, filled with young women. Upon reaching his hotel, the receptionist asks if he's expecting any company, a question that takes Dennis by surprise, and he answers in the negative. After settling in and taking a short rest, he ventures out into the town, armed with an address from Bent. He meets Scott, an old friend of Bent, who already seems to understand why Dennis has sought him out. Scott promises to introduce him to the most charming Thai woman by the end of the day. Scott, the old man, attempts to inquire about Dennis's preferences, but Dennis struggles to respond, having never had any girlfriends before. While returning to his hotel, the taxi driver recommends a tailor shop, and Dennis decides to order a trendy jacket made of blue fabric. The savvy shopkeeper, seeing Dennis's innocence, swindles him into paying an exorbitant price. However, Dennis doesn't protest and agrees to the proposed cost. Back at his hotel, Dennis immediately tries to reach his mother over the phone, but his attempts are met with silence, and he's forced to leave a message on her answering machine. Shortly after, the courier delivers his new jacket, and Dennis prepares for an evening stroll. Post-shower, he steps out into the bustling city and makes his way to Scott's residence. As promised, Scott introduces Dennis to a charming Thai woman who knows her job well. She immediately showers Dennis with attention, admiring his well-built muscles. She's even bold enough to follow him into the bathroom, showing off her skills. But all this only ends up making Dennis feel uneasy. After leaving the restaurant, Dennis escorts the woman back to his hotel room, having compensated for her company at the reception. While the woman freshens up, Dennis paces nervously around the room, unsure of his next steps. When she returns, she discusses her service rates, and Dennis agrees to her services for the whole night. However, When she begins her work, Dennis panics and requests that they take things slow, asking her to talk about herself first. Despite the woman's attempts to put him at ease, Dennis remains tense and asks her to leave, even paying for services he didn't utilize. Once the door shuts behind her, Dennis quickly dials his mother's number again, but she still doesn't answer. He spends the whole night worrying and doesn't catch a wink of sleep. The next morning, Dennis visits a local gym where he crosses paths with a young gym goer who recognizes him and seems to be a fan, even keeping a collection of magazine cutouts featuring Dennis and Toy, the gym's owner. Dennis and the young gym goer engage in an energetic workout session, with Dennis impressing the young man with his exceptional strength. He shares his body posing techniques, guiding him on picking the perfect angle for each pose. The local athlete, thrilled by their camaraderie, invites Dennis to join his group for a get-together in the evening. Dennis reveals he already has plans, but nonetheless accepts the paper with the gathering's address. Later that evening, Dennis finds himself back at Scott's restaurant. Scott introduces him to another woman, Knock, who, like the previous lady, is instantly taken with Dennis's muscular physique. However, Dennis's focus shifts to a blonde Thai singer on stage, captivating the crowd with a heartfelt song. Spotting couples basking in each other's company, Dennis feels out of place. The idea of spending time with a paid companion overwhelms him, and he takes off, choosing to wander the city by himself. Recalling the gym-goer's invitation, he decides to check out the address written on the paper he was given, leading him to a cafe at the city's edge. The local bodybuilders greet Dennis warmly, and he comfortably blends into their group. He strikes up a conversation with Toy, the gym owner, who lost her husband a few years back. When she asks about his relationship status, he confesses that he has yet to find his soulmate. As the evening wraps up, Dennis offers to accompany Toy home, and she, in turn, invites him to spend the following day with her. The next morning sees the duo renting mopeds and setting off on a citywide ride. Toy leads the tour, showing him around the local market and introducing him to traditional delicacies. The pair also visit a Buddhist temple, leaving a donation before heading off to an untouched beach. Dennis finds himself so smitten by Toy's company that he attempts to kiss her, only to be gently pushed away. Embarrassed by the situation, he quickly leaves the beach. His moped refuses to start, leaving him with no option but to ride back with Toy on her moped. Upon reaching the hotel, Toy explains to Dennis that public displays of affection are not common in Thailand. To lighten the mood, she invites him over to her place for a meal. Once inside her humble home, Dennis skips the dinner and kisses Toy instantly. As he steps away to use the restroom, Toy slips into a fancy lingerie. But the sudden escalation freaks Dennis out, and he dashes off, leaving Toy completely perplexed. Once outside, Dennis pauses and realizes he can't keep running away. He goes back to Toy, confesses his fondness for her, and expresses his desire to stay with her. They spend the night together, cuddling, without taking things any further. His holiday comes to a close, and Dennis heads back home. His mother, Ingrid, overjoyed to see him, promptly prepares a feast and inquires about the competition and his striking tan. When she hears he finished in 6th place, she expresses disappointment. Dennis, hesitant to reveal the truth about his trip, quickly changes the subject by voicing his concern about his unanswered calls. Ingrid deflects the blame, maintaining she did nothing wrong. As Dennis unpacks, he carefully hangs up his blue jacket and gazes at a picture of Toy, longing to see her again. Keeping it a secret from his mother, he meets with a real estate agent and rents an apartment, one that even has space for a baby crib. The anticipation of the upcoming conversation keeps him awake at night. Unable to wait any longer, he decides to confront Ingrid, who's also up. He confesses about his Thailand trip on Bent's suggestion and reveals he's met a girl whom he intends to bring back to Denmark. Ingrid, feeling betrayed, accuses him of being reckless and throws him out of the house. Feeling guilty, Dennis spends another sleepless night. By the time Dennis drags himself downstairs the following morning, Ingrid is already waiting for him at the table, geared up for a heart-to-heart talk. She tells Dennis that his actions have deeply hurt her and feels like a betrayal. She sternly admits that she will never approve of his relationship with the Thai girl. She tells him that the only way she might consider forgiving him is if he ends all ties with Toy and promises never to engage in such disgraceful behavior again. Dennis, unable to meet his mother's gaze, assures her that he will cut off all ties with Toy and refrain from upsetting her with his actions. With that, he goes back to his usual training regimen, and life seems to return to normal. But a few days later, Toy lands in Denmark. With a bouquet of flowers, Dennis greets his girlfriend warmly and takes her to the apartment he had prepared for their life together. He gifts Toy a pendant, but the joyful moment is soured when he fabricates a tale about his ailing mother. He tells Toy he needs to be with his mother during the nights, and cannot bring her along as not to disturb his mother with unfamiliar faces. In the evenings, Dennis dutifully visits his mother, having meals with her just like old times. During the day, he spends time with Toy, escorting her around the mall. But one day, Ingrid unexpectedly bumps into Dennis in a lingerie store. The surprised Dennis struggles to explain, but his attempts are futile. Upon spotting Toy, Ingrid immediately discerns that Dennis has been deceiving her once again. Ingrid, consumed by jealousy, causes a commotion, yelling angrily at the couple. Dennis swiftly escorts Toy away to escape the scene. In the car, he finds himself in a position where he has to reveal the truth to his fiancée. He takes her to the apartment he had rented for them, and then sets off alone to talk to his mother. Arriving at his mother's place, Dennis discovers Ingrid with cut hands. She had injured herself while breaking his belongings in her room. Dennis, exhausted from the constant emotional strain, sits at the edge of the bed, breaking into tears, unsure of his next steps. Dennis gathers himself and tells his mother that he is moving out of her house. Despite her continued attempts to manipulate and intimidate him, he tries to remain steadfast, but Ingrid switches from anger to tears, begging him not to leave her and to send Toy away. Unmoved, Dennis tidies up his room and collects all his things. He takes care of his mother's injured hand and hugs her one last time, tuning out her desperate pleas. With the last of his belongings loaded up, Dennis departs with Toy, leaving the town behind, hoping to embark on a new and independent life. Toy, understanding the gravity of the situation, gently strokes Dennis's hand in an attempt to provide some comfort and support as they move forward on this new journey together. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and let me know in the comments what you think of the ending of this movie. I guess YouTube didn't show you my other videos. Here are two I think you'll definitely like. So take your pick and watch.